Yeah, there we are. We
There
are
we are.
live.
So we're gonna remove that. Say remove. Thank you very much. Save changes. All right, here we go. We're live. Ready?
All right.
Count of three.
I,
1, 2, 3.
I pledge
I pledge
allegiance
allegiance
to the
to the
flag
flag
of
of
the
the
United
United
States
States
of
of
America
America
and
and
to
to
the
the republic
republic
for
for
which
which
it
it
stands,
stands,
one
one nation,
nation, under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with liberty
liberty
and
and
justice for
justice
all.
for all. Woohoo!
Woohoo!
Well, I have no music to play. My apologies. Yay!
All right.
Ooh, what do you got going on? Is this one of your feeds? No.
Yeah, we're probably going to have to pay Kid Rock some money for this one, I'm sure.
We the people, and
Yeah.
us we do, reserve the right to
Let's
scream,
send him an
fuck
email.
you!
Let's see if we can find his email. We'll send him an email. Can you hear me all right or what?
Wear your mask, take your pills, now a whole generation's mentally...
Can you hear that good?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. The music was overrunning your voice. So,
Okay.
yeah, it's going to be a good show. We have
quick shut our borders down, so
a lot of stuff happening.
media embraces. Big Don does it and they call them racist.
Big John does it, they call it racist. So there you go.
Call
Let's
it
go,
race.
Brandon. Yeah, that's an old one,
Let's
but
go, Brandon.
still a goodie.
Still a goodie? Yep, I'm showing live on my phone.
All right, let's see if that
Going
comes
live.
up. All right, so there we go.
Gee. Man, you're gonna get trouble for that one. They'll probably ban us for that last statement.
What, for fuck Facebook? Yeah, I know. I know. I know.
Welcome to the jungle, my friends.
Oh, so plenty of stuff going on here. Jeff and I haven't been on in a couple of weeks. We decided, what the heck, we'll try it tonight. And
Yes,
Jeff,
we
you keep blinking off every now and then, coming back.
Do I?
Yeah, you just did it again. I'll let you know when it happens again. But yeah, yeah. So we got a few things on the agenda. We want to talk about tariffs. I'd like to talk about the post office. Jeff, what do you got going on over there? You said you had a couple things you were looking up there.
Well, apparently there was a fire in one of our major ammunition manufacturing plants a couple weeks ago. Nobody heard anything about it. I'm sure you didn't hear anything about it. And then we want to talk about the legal fight to stop Mohammed Khalid's deportation. You know, the wonderful guy who was protesting for Hamas.
Well, why don't we start there?
And then we also got Dan Bongino for the deputy director of the FBI. That's going to lead some really interesting information.
Has he not been confirmed yet?
No, he doesn't have to be confirmed. He's a deputy director.
Okay.
He's been assigned. Yeah,
he just got hired. Yeah, okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Yeah. So let's start with the Khalif guy there, and we'll go with that.
Okay.
Welcome to the jungle.
I was looking at this. Let's see. I wasn't. I didn't think you were going to go to mine first, so I have to pull something.
Oh, okay. Well, we can.
So yeah,
we can start on the post office if you want to do that. We can do that.
No, that's fine. I mean, I think the Khalif thing was from Christian Science Monitor. So I have a subscription to Christian Science Monitor.
Okay, here we go. I got to unplug this. That thing turns itself on all by itself for whatever reason.
Whatever reason.
So you want to talk about you want to start with the post office?
Sure, go ahead. Because you know a lot about the post office. I love it when you talk about the post office because I think it's so
there's been a lot of bad publicity in the post office, on Fox especially. They're talking it down. They should do away with it, and this, that, and the other thing. And a lot of stuff needs to go into that. First off, let's say the first thing is it's in the Constitution that we will have a post office. Yes. Now that doesn't necessarily make it. It has to be there forever. You can change the Constitution. You can make an amendment to do away with it if you want to. But the thing is this. There's a lot of things the post office does that some people don't understand. Okay, one is they deliver to every house every day if you have mail. Okay, almost every house. There are a few they don't, but almost every house, 100% of the time, they deliver if you have mail. Okay?
Right.
So there's people don't understand is, first off, if you privatize it, that's going to go away. Okay, and you may say, I don't need that. But then your mailbox might fill up wherever because you're not going to get your mail, and you'll get no mail. Um, and if you get your mail, you're gonna have to go to the end of your street, or you might have to go to a post office and get a post office box.
I would guess it'd be more like that. That'd be my guess, but
Um, so and they will so the privatization, they will not deliver anywhere where they're losing money, and the post office delivers in a lot of places where they lose money as we
right,
speak. Um, so you would be driving to get your mail, you'd be paying more for your mail. That's the other thing. Postage would go way up. It's proven fact. Every place in the world where they have privatized, postage has gone skyrocket. Okay, because the post office is supposed to be a break-even business, and if you privatize it, they're not going to want to be a break-even business. You just did it again, Jeff.
right. Oh, did I?
Yeah,
Oh, well,
it just goes off for a second, then comes back.
that's Barbara Streisand, my friend. That's Barbara Streisand.
That's
We
Barbara
can't put up with
Streisand
that.
for sure.
Can't
And
put up with that.
so where was I? Oh yeah, so prices are going to go up. You're going to get less service, and they're not going to deliver to every house every day. And there's many accounts where postal people have saved a customer's life because they're there every day.
Right. And they're
We
like,
had one
something's
in
different.
Binghamton, New York, actually, where guys delivering to this older couple, and they pick up their mail every day, so it's never a question. Oh, the mail's backing up. So the mail started backing up. On the third day, he decided, okay, I got to find out what's going on here, because this. So he asked the neighbor, "Have you seen them?" No, we haven't seen them. So they called the police. Police get in there. The guy had died, and she had slipped in the bathroom after that happened, trying to get to his medication, and fell on the floor and couldn't get up. And she was laying there waiting to die when they came in and found us. And there's many stories like this. There's stories where
Right.
mailman's walking down the street. Man, I smell gas. Get a hold of somebody. I smell gas. The gas company comes out. Sure enough, there's a gas leak. Um, so there's all kinds of stories like that that people don't understand. And lastly, I'll say this. Part of the reason, as a matter of fact, the majority of the reason the post office is in the situation they're in is because the government stole money from them. And
Imagine that government stealing money. I just
so
can't.
since
I
the
can't. You must be telling a lie. I'm just saying. They must. Be
yeah,
telling
you
a
know
lie.
me. That's what I
Government
do.
would never steal money, especially from
Yeah, you may be
another
right,
government
but
agency.
so here's what the facts are, and you make your own decision. Okay. So the facts are this. I think it was 1969 with the post office went on strike, and then they came back and they had a contract, and in the contract it says the post office has to run itself as a business, but it can't make any money. So since that day, the post office every year they zero out the balance. Well, they don't zero out the balance by spending the money. What they zero out the balance is by the government takes the money. So let's just say in 1975, the post office was 100 million over what they were supposed to make. And it's probably more like a billion. I'm just giving a low number. Well, the government just take that money at the end of the fiscal year. Oh, okay, you got a surplus, we just take it. Now, what did they do with that money? They just spent it, because that's what they do.
Well, they paid back Social Security, I'm sure. So
Nope,
they,
that didn't happen. We'll go into Social Security another time. Let me finish this first, though, because I got all kinds of shit to say about that. Actually, I just got one major point, which would just everything would be okay. So
It'll
that
be
happened every year, for year after year after year after year, billions of dollars. Okay,
Right.
and in 2000 and when did I'm trying to think who was president at the time? Bush. So when did Bush get elected? 2001.
No.
4 or
no,
5?
I think it was when he got reelected, wasn't it?
2005.
I don't know.
But anyways, it was around 2005, and Bush was the president. That they came up with this great idea, and don't get me wrong, I agree it was a great idea. They've been giving the government all this money anyways every single year, so why not pre-fund the retirement for postal employees by $80 billion, giving them $5 billion a year until they got up to $80 billion. And at that time, the post office was giving the government $5 billion a year anyways.
So hey, let me interrupt you for a second.
Okay.
So if the post office can't be a profitable organization and they're saving $5 billion a year to go towards this retirement fund, how is that not going to become a surplus to the U.S. government? Like, hey, wait a minute, you got a surplus over there, $5 billion. Hey, wait a minute, you got a surplus over there of $10 billion. 2 years in a row, you got $5 billion extra. So that anyway.
So
That's
on
a
paper,
detraction from your
on
thing.
paper, they're going to say that the post office is giving all this money towards future retirement. But I'm going to bet, I would bet my house that there's not an account somewhere with $80 billion in it waiting for the post office to use it, gaining interest, all that stuff.
Right.
I'm going to bet money that there would. So anyways, that in my idea, that was a good idea. Like I said, the post office was getting extra money anyways. They were just taking it. At least this way there's a record of it and somewhere down the road. Well,
Yeah,
almost
you know.
like the second year is when the recession hit. Okay. And the post office revenue dropped off. They come to make the $5 billion payment. Well, they lost money that year. Or they actually what it was it dropped off. They would have actually broke even or made a little bit of money, but then they had to pay the $5 billion a year. So they ended up having to borrow that money to pay the $5 billion towards future retirement. And they
Makes
did
sense.
and they did this for a bunch of years in a row. I don't remember how many, a lot of years in a row they did. They had to borrow they were okay, but they had to borrow the money to pay this $5 billion off. Okay. So now the post office is in wicked debt. Okay. And last year they say they lost $9 billion. I have no reason to question that. But part of that is they're buying new vehicles. The vehicles that they have are 30 years old. They have to buy new vehicles. And then everybody's like jumping on them and saying, well, they're not making any money. We should just close them. Well, then back to my point is this. First off, they wouldn't be in nearly this bad a shape if the government didn't take all this money from them. And like I said, they could have fixed that at any time. They could have just said, okay, look, we want you to repay this money, but to borrow the money to repay it. We don't think you should have to do that. But our government is what our government is. And I'm blaming both sides. I'm not blaming one side. I'm blaming both sides.
Right, and I'm
They
with
did
you.
that.
So I want to interject for
Okay.
one moment. You told me a story one time about one time when the some Republican congressman or senator decided to audit the USPS to try to find.
I think it was Rand Paul. And so the first few years where they had to borrow the money, Rand Paul decided, we're going to audit the post office to find out why the heck this is happening. And they went way back. And what they found out was what I just told you, that every year the post office is over, they've been giving this money to them anyways. And now that they have to borrow it, and he found this, and he was thinking what he was thinking when he did this was the post office is a badly run organization, and we're going to put it out of business. Well, once he found all that they've been making money every year and the government's been taking the money every year, he shut the investigation down. Nothing came. Okay, because it didn't show him what he wanted.
I thought there was one where you said that they found that they had taken like billions of dollars from the retirement fund. They need to owe it back, but nobody knew where it went to or something like that.
So what it was so like I said, all this money was going, and what happened was once he found this, people said, well, we've already paid the $80 billion in. Just take it back from that money that we already paid you guys.
Right.
And then he was like, oh, never mind. Like that.
Right.
So that happened. And now we get all these people saying it's shut down because they're losing money. And I just want everybody to know these are the facts. The reason they're losing so much money is because the government's stealing money from them. And I'm pretty sure they've pre-funded the $80 billion as of now. And now they need money to buy new vehicles. And that's the reason why it's so bad. But if they didn't do this, they would already had new vehicles. But they couldn't afford to buy new vehicles because they had to borrow money every year to pay the $5 billion to get to the $80 billion. So, anyways, that's my thought about the post office. The post office is a great service, and I know I may be many electric postal vehicles in Broome County, and so so Beth Smay says there's hello Beth, by the way. And Beth Smay says there's many electric postal vehicles in Broome County. That's some of the ones they're buying. And my feeling on this is I have mixed feelings on this. First off, I think electric vehicles would save the post office a lot of money in the upper countries or the upper part of the country where we get snow. Because right now, with the older vehicles, we have to go out, we have to warm them up, we have to de-ice them before we can drive. So we go out there and we have to have all this done before we go, just to be safe. You have to have all the windows clean, and sometimes there's ice on it, and you have to. You, it takes a while. Hello, Wayne. How's it going? My cousin was told he had to buy his own vehicle if he wanted to keep his job. He's probably a rural carrier, Wayne, and that's because and the rural carriers always used to have their own vehicles and they pay them mileage. And a lot of them didn't like it when the post office gave them their own postal vehicle. But yeah, so they're probably going to go back to that because they're such behind and they're doing this. Well, anyways, electric vehicles. So my feeling is this, and I don't know this for sure, but my feeling is this: you get an electric vehicle up there, it snows out, you can probably defrost that while you're sorting your mail. You don't have to be out because you can't leave the vehicle running and walk away. Well, the electric vehicle, it's not running. You just turn the heat on while it's plugged in, and go back in and sort your mail. Come back out, the whole thing's defrosted. Load your mail and go. It'll save the post office money. My problem with the electric vehicle is this: these vehicles right now, they're 30 something years old, between 30 and 35 years old, depending on when they got them. They lasted in really good shape over 20 years. Will the electric battery be good for over 20 years?
No, absolutely not.
And that's my problem with the electric vehicle. I don't know. Jeff says no. I'm not sure. I don't know what that process is exactly. But I I'm thinking like Jeff does. I don't think the batteries are good enough to last that long. So it's going to actually end up costing the post office more money, the electric vehicles. Um, but yeah, so that's where we're at. They're trying to buy new vehicles, and government wants to shut them down because they stole all the money from them, and now they're where they're at. And a guy about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I read a story a guy wrote about the post office, some businessman, and he's well known, but I can't think of his name. He said that the post office could stay viable for another 100 years if they make the right decisions. So
Imagine that.
yeah, so I don't know if that's truth or what, but anyways, that's my spiel on the post office. I hope it stays there, and they want them to cut 10,000 jobs. That was another thing that Doge said, and I don't even have a problem. I don't know if 10,000 is going to be too many, but I will say this: when I worked at the post office, there was
management first.
way too many people working at the post office who don't touch the mail. Okay, so I think at one time in the post office they had one supervisor for every 6 employees, which is ridiculous.
Right. Okay, so I got some info on your battery. You ready for this?
Yep.
So this is from Car and Driver. EV battery life expectancy. The simplest way to judge the expected longevity of a battery pack is to see what the manufacturers promise. All automakers currently offer at least an 8-year, 100,000-mile warranty on EV battery packs. So how's that going to work with your postal carriers? Yeah. Tesla offers an 8-year warranty, battery warranty, and depending on the range and type of vehicle coverage, for 100,000 to 150,000 miles. How quickly do you think 150,000 miles is going to be put on a vehicle?
On most postal vehicles, it won't be that much. On most postal vehicles, they drive them less than most people do. Even though they're driving them every day, they might be only driving them 6 or 7 miles every day, 6 days a week. The city routes, the rural carriers, that would be different. But the city routes, they might put anywhere from 5 to 15 miles a day on them, depending on where they are in the city.
Gotcha. So it says this guarantees just against the complete failure of a battery pack, but isn't just against the complete failure of a battery pack, but against degradation. As they age, charge cycle by charge cycle, a lithium-ion pack loses a fraction of its total capacity. Tesla's fine print says that its vehicles must retain at least 70% of their capacity during warranty period. If they drop below that threshold, they will be replaced for free. So it depends on who's making your batteries or who's making the cars that are going to be electric cars. Who is manufacturing electric cars? Beth, do you know who manufactured the electric cars that are in carriers in
Oh, there's a
Wayne
company.
County?
I can find it out. It's not. It wasn't that difficult to find out. But Wayne says no wire harness underneath the vehicles corrode very quickly and have to be changed very expensive. And that's in the upper. That's be where they salt the crap out of the roads. Obviously,
Right. Yeah.
you would get that.
Yeah. And
Um,
and the other thing I was thinking, as you were talking about, you could warm up the vehicle and leave it, locked because it's not running or anything.
right.
I can just imagine, not that this would ever happen. It would probably never ever happen, but I could just imagine somebody loads all their mail in their car, they jump in the car and they back out and they forgot to unplug it and rips that
Oh,
charger
yeah.
right off the wall or rips the front end
Oh,
of the
I can see
vehicle
that
out or
happening.
whatever.
So it says
So,
the new U.S. Postal Service (USPS) next generation delivery vehicles NGDV are being manufactured by Oshkosh Defense.
Oshkosh Tika.
Oshkosh Defense was awarded the contract for the vehicles, with the first deliveries expected to begin in 2023, and potential total order of up to 165 vehicles over 10 years.
Sweet.
So Oshkosh Defense is who's, I don't know. I'm imagining it's American made. It's probably one of Biden's friends, I would imagine. Got the because if you see these new vehicles, they are freaking ugly. Holy crap!
I can't even
I but whatever. I mean, it does, and they don't have to be pretty to work. But I'll say this: the
Right.
LLVs were great to work out of, but they suck to drive. They're terrible to drive. Then they got the little vans that were great to drive, and they suck to work out of. So
Right.
if they're good to drive and they're good to work out of, I don't care what they look like.
Yeah, exactly. So just so we know, one of the first things that Rick talked about with the USPS. So in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution of the United States, Congress's job, power under Section 8 powers of Congress, is to establish post offices and post roads. So that's their job. Their job is not to tear them down or get rid of them. It's to establish them, and the reason is so that we can have communication. And yes, back then, they needed to be able to, communicate with somebody, who's 3 states away, and it would take forever, blah blah blah. But the reality is, nothing's changed. Even though we have internet, we have phones, all the other stuff. People still mail stuff. People still
Yeah.
use the USPS for
And I'm
regular
going to
letters
say
and stuff.
say this: it's great to have the mail as a backup when when these computers go fu, because I believe in my mind someday that's going to happen.
What do they call that again? It's going to happen. It's going to be a power outage. A power. What is it going to be? Someone tell us what it's going to be. It's
Oh, you're talking about that? You say the Russians got a
yeah, an EV. It's going to be not EV. It's it's got the words right on the tip of my tongue. Anyway, it's basically where they overload the electric system and they take it offline, the whole electric system offline.
right.
So,
And I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about somebody hacking it and crashing it.
well, so I wish I had the story. I didn't even think about this. So you just said that. Prior to Trump's first term, they discovered these massive generator or power packs or generators or something like that that had a back door in it for China to get. So they banned them all, right? So they no
Right.
longer can we have these things put into our power grid because it would cause a problem, right? Because then
Right.
China would be able to do a back door into our electric grid, shut it off, and we'd be screwed, right? So they
Right.
banned them all, right? And then when Joe Biden got elected, 4 years or so ago, that was one of the first bans that he dropped, and we've had over 250 of these power packs purchased from China to be put onto our grid.
Yeah.
What could possibly go wrong with that?
Well, that's because Joe Biden is bought by China. We know that that they've
Well,
given
yeah.
his family millions of dollars, and nobody even argues with that anymore. They ignore it when you say it. They don't even argue it anymore.
Right.
And when I said about it was probably one of Joe Biden's friends, it's just because Joe Biden was in office. Every our government since forever has been given contracts to their friends that should have been, let's just say it should have been $100 million contract. They're giving it to them for $200 million so they can fricking make money, and then they give them a kickback or whatever. It's ridiculous the way our government works. Right. Reminds me of a story about what's that new wolf they're making? The
dire wolf.
The dire wolf.
Yep. I was telling my wife this story earlier. It's great. Go ahead.
So this guy's on Joe Rogan, okay? And the guy, the company who's made the dire wolf, he's on Joe Rogan. That's not all they're doing. They're doing all kinds of this, what they call it? Not endangered species, and they also do extinction, reboot,
extinction.
whatever you want to call it. So anyways, they did the dire wolf. They also, there's a red fox in, I think it's South Carolina, that is on the endangered list, and there's only like 20 of them left. Okay, so they got some red wolves, took some DNA, and they made a bunch of red wolves.
Right.
They went through the whole process of making it safe, doing it right, so there's no defects making them. This guy goes to the Biden administration and he says, "Look, we've done all this studying. We've already done it. We got wolves. We're going to give them to you, and the information. We're going to give it all to you for free." The response was this: "Well, we're going to have to do a 4 or 5 year study to make sure it's feasible at about $20 to $22 million." And the guy says, "No, I've already done all that.
Right.
You don't need it. I've already done it, and I'm going to give it to you for free." Well, we're going to have to do a 4 or 5 year study and spend $22 million to see if it's feasible. And the guy was just flabbergasted, and they left. And the guy had 3 more meetings that day with government, and they all canceled them. This is our freaking government. This is what it does with our tax dollars.
Well, that was under Biden. It's not now. Tell him what happened when Trump.
And he went to this administration with the same deal, and this administration said, "Okay, let's go.
Right.
Let's do it."
Right.
So this is what our government does. This is how it spends all our tax dollars. Not all of it, but there's a lot of useless money being spent that doesn't need to be spent. And this is what our government does. The good news is we don't need our news media because we have people like Joe Rogan, and we have other people who do podcasts that we're going to get our information from because we don't trust the news anymore.
Yeah, and they don't, and they're not getting their lesson. They're just doubling down on their Barbara Streisand. Who's
hey, Daniel Rebich. Who's that?
I don't know. Never heard of him. Daniel, welcome to the podcast
Daniel.
of Rick and Jeff Unfiltered.
Yeah.
Okay,
how you doing?
So back to what we were talking about on the whole DOE, Department of Energy. So on April 20th, 2021, the U.S. Department of Energy revoked the December 2020 prohibition order issued by the Trump administration, which banned the acquisition, importation, transfer, or installation of certain bulk power systems, electric equipment manufactured or supplied by persons owned by, controlled by, or subject to the jurisdiction or direction of the People's Republic of China. The prohibition order was issued pursuant to EO 13920, securing the United States bulk power system May 1st, 2020, which was promulgated to address foreign adversaries countries creating and exploiting vulnerabilities in the United States bulk power system. So Biden said, "Yeah, we're gonna get our bulk power systems from China because," and the reason he did that, like I said, is they had this huge piece of equipment and nobody knew what it was, and they found out what it was, and they're investigating this piece of equipment, and they discovered that there's like a back door for China to be able to get into the system once it gets put online.
Right.
So they took it offline. They didn't put that online. They took something that they'd already received offline, and they said no more. Right. And Biden, as soon as he gets elected, says, "Yeah, we're going to overturn that. We're going to allow the Chinese People's Republic of China to make bulk power systems and put it on our grid." What could possibly go wrong with that?
Yeah, what could go wrong with that? Well, Tony or Daniel Ribich says, "I hope my brother Tony Ribich was never mean to you. Not that I can remember."
Yeah,
so.
I don't think so. No.
You were saying something. I had a point, and I forgot what it was. Whatever. It'll come back to me. You know how my memory is.
Anywhere but China. Was that the point? Anywhere but China?
Oh, that's what it was. So somebody today called me that told I mentioned Trump derangement syndrome, and I didn't tell this person they had it. I was saying in general, this is where this information comes from, is people with Trump derangement syndrome. And they said, seems to me like you have Trump denial syndrome. And I'm like, first off, I don't even like Trump that much. I just think he was the best of two bad choices.
Right.
And what was I gonna say? I don't know. I lost my train of thought there. And so anyways, yeah. So I don't even like the guy that much. Oh, I know. So, but I don't think he's the devil either.
Right.
Okay. I can find some good things he's doing. I can also complain about, like I just did about the post office. That's part of what they're trying to do. And I'm complaining about it. And I will say this. So, I watch Fox News, I watch CNN. And I'll say this, on the weekend, both those channels are more towards the middle by a lot than they are during the week. It's crazy how much they are towards the middle. And Fox, I'm having a hard time watching them. They're kissing Trump's ass. Doesn't matter what he does. They just follow in line and say, this is great. This is great. This is great. No counter. I mean, they have counter people there, but the counter people that they have are so ridiculously counter that you barely can listen to them. And CNN's just the other way. Trump can do nothing wrong. This sucks. This sucks. This sucks. I'm just like, I'm going brain dead trying to watch these two things. And my point is this. Eventually, we're not even going to watch the news at all. We're going to just get our news from other places. Find the facts out. Do it that way because we're not going to trust them.
I'm trying.
Anyways,
there was a guy on Fox News this morning. I was listening to him. I can't remember his name. He had a.
I know who it is. I can't think of his name either, but I bet you I heard the same thing you did.
I'm trying to look him up because I was like, I don't really like the guy per se, but I like the way that he was talking about it because I'm with my brother. I love Fox, but I'm looking at these guys. I'm like, look, you have to investigate. You can't just say, well, Trump's doing everything great, right?
Right.
Or find a great thing about what he's doing and just promote that because that's no better than the left doing it, right? And one of the other shows I was listening to this morning, they were talking about, we have to. Oh, I think it was on Tucker Carlson. I was watching a Tucker Carlson interview, which brought up one of the points that I wanted to bring up tonight. But basically, you're saying, look, the guy he was on there said, "Do you think that the Democrats are ever come back?" He said, "We have to. They have to. We can't have a one-party system. We need a two-party system because we need checks and balances.
Two-party is bad enough. If we went to one party, it'd be crazy.
Well, California can give you the perfect example of what sucks to have a one-party system.
Right.
They just do whatever the hell they want.
But New York's same way.
But the FBI apparently is the Department of Justice is apparently investigating the state of California. I think it's great. So they have that wonderful boondoggle, high-speed railway to nowhere. They spend like
Howard Kurtz.
Howard Kurtz, yes. I was fascinated with that show.
He is right. He is dead in the middle. This guy.
Yeah,
he truly is.
I think he leans more towards the left, but
no, he doesn't.
The left, the girl that was on the left was it was funny because she says, "Look, this is like watching the kids in daycare," and I'm like, "Did you really just say that? What have we been watching for the last 4 years?"
Well,
it's like this guy's in.
I don't think they should be comparing this year. I should think they're talking about right now, and that's what she was. And if you listen to her whole thing, she said some good things about what's going on now too. That woman did.
Yeah, I don't agree with some of it, but yeah, and that's one of the reasons I like the show because I'm like, okay, so we're finally getting a realistic, different perspective. But her perspective, I mean, and this is what I see on every person that they have on Fox that's a left-leaning person. They have, except for who's that one guy that you and I like? The
Ford.
Yeah, Ford. That guy is phenomenal.
They keep telling him he should run for president as a Democrat. He'd be way better than these other idiots.
Oh yeah.
Harold Ford. Harold Ford.
I love Harold Ford.
I do too.
And I'm not a liberal by any means, but
he just does stuff that's common sense.
Exactly. We need common sense. That's the thing that we're missing in the United States of America. Is we are missing common sense. And when you don't have common sense, whether you're a conservative or a liberal, you just look like an idiot. You look like a fool. Men can get pregnant and have babies. Really? So
Julie Holland Cooley is watching. Hello, Julie.
Hello, Julie. How's it going? So it's stuff like that just drives me insane. It's like and then they want to talk about science. Oh, the girl that was on this morning on the Howie Kurtz show, I think that's what it's called. She was talking about science. Right? Hey, my wonderful wife is on there.
Hello,
Good job,
Kathy.
sweetie. So she was talking about science, but it's like, look, you guys talked about science the whole time when Fauci was out there saying that the COVID vaccine works and you're gonna die if you don't get the COVID vaccine and COVID. It's like it's all just a bunch of Barbara Streisand, and it's like you can't say that you trust in science when you don't even believe in it, and then you turn around and say that men can get pregnant. Like, look,
Yeah.
if you say that science says that men can get pregnant, then you might as well just shut up and leave.
First off, they only want you to believe the science when it says what they want it to say.
Right.
Because if you truly believe in science, you would never say a man could swim in the pool with women in their sport and it's equal. Or what that woman said. There's another woman said, there's no difference between men and women in sports. They're the same. No, they're not. If otherwise, we wouldn't have men and women sports. We'd have a sport and the best people would play.
Right.
I mean, if you can't say that, because in reality, so the under 18 boys, the women's national team practiced against the under 18 boys because it helped them.
Right.
Because they couldn't beat them. But it helped them because they're playing against a higher competition. And they're under 18. So don't tell me it's the same, because it's not.
Yeah, competition is always good, whether you're it's the same sex or the opposite sex. If you're playing just to get better, competition is always good, right? You will always get better when you're playing against harder competition. So
Julie says, I agree with your opinion on Fox lately. And Jeff, the commentator at noon today, is who I think you were referring to. Yeah, and we found out his name. What did we say?
Howie Kurtz, I think it was Howie Kurtz or whatever. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's noon Eastern time. I think I was listening to 9 a.m. California time. But yeah, it's just crazy. My wife is texting, posting some stuff. So who do you want me to bring onto the video, Kathy? She says, bring them onto the video. Who? I don't know.
And Daniel says Trump 1.0 is great. Trump 2.0 scares me. Where are the arrests? Bondi says soon. Nothing happens. And we've been saying that forever about these. Where the freak? You're telling me you got all this evidence. How come nobody's getting arrested?
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. And there was a news story that came out last week that Trump apparently said something on Air Force One to the media. He said that there's something big. They found something big, and we're going to be talking about it recently. And then the next day, Carolyn Leavitt, as the press secretary, was asked a question. So, what was it that was found? And she goes, "Well, I can only tell you something big, but I can't get ahead of the president on this. They'll let you know as soon as possible, or as soon as possible." I don't know what that something big is, but I think they're finding a lot of something bigs, and they're trying to figure out where to start from.
Well, then you have Doge. Doge coming out, oh, we're going to save $1 trillion. And they come up with 150 billion. And don't get me wrong, 150 billion is great. But don't tell me you're finding all this billions and billions and billions of dollars, and people might be getting $5,000 checks and blah, blah, blah. You know what the 150 billion comes out to per check? I forget. I read it somewhere the other day. It was like, I forget what it was.
It doesn't matter.
$800 and something if you did it, which I don't want the money to begin with. Don't get me wrong. You should put it towards the debt. But don't say we're finding all this shit and then we come and find out it's not even close to what you were saying, because now you look like you're lying to us.
Right.
You know? And how can we trust you when that happens?
Right. And it's like when you remember a couple of weeks ago, it was like a headline news for like 3 days 3 days straight. Oh, we're going to go to Fort Knox and see if there's any gold in Fort Knox, right?
Yeah.
So for 3 days straight, they talked about it, and then all of a sudden, nothing.
It went away.
Excuse me, did they go to Fort Knox? Or did they go to Fort and find something there or find nothing there? Or did they not go to Fort Knox?
Right. Yeah.
I don't have a problem with you investigating the shit, but you should be telling the American people what the hell is going on.
All
You
I
work
want
for
is the
us.
truth and the facts. I don't want
Exactly.
any embellishment. And Trump does this too. He embellishes big time. And they all do it. But I don't want that from anybody. I don't want it from Biden. I don't want it from Trump. I don't want it from
Right.
Musk. I don't want it from the old border czar Corella. I don't want it from the old guy who was
Corolla.
supposed to be in charge of the whatever whatever the hell that guy's name, who should have been now that guy, what's the last guy who was
Borders
the
are the border.
what was his name? Not the border czar, but he had a different name. But basically, he was in charge of the border.
Right.
Anyways, that guy should have been fired, and they never did. They kept saying they were going to. We're gonna, and they did impeach him. But for all it was worth, really nothing.
It was worthless.
Yeah.
And there is a video.
Exactly.
There is a video you can find of he is oh god, his face is right in front of my mind, where he was walking through an airport and a reporter starts asking him questions. Do you think this border is more secure now with under Trump, or more secure when you were the head of the whatever it was,
Yeah.
And silence, not answering, not looking, trying to figure out how to get out of the situation as soon as he possibly can, because the reality is, like Trump said in his first address to the nation, right? The Democrats said, well, we need to change the laws, we need to have Republicans help us in Congress, we need to start making all these changes, blah blah blah. And it turns out all they needed was a new president. Bam, mic drop, walk away. And that's really all it was. You need somebody who has the balls and the fortitude to say, you know what, we're going to shut the border down. And Canada and Mexico, if you don't start doing something about it, we're just going to shut you down, So,
yeah. Well, Daniel Rebich says, and Christy Noem needs to stop cosplaying as an operator. What? I don't know what that means. What do you mean by an operator?
So basically what happened was Christy Noem went on a raid with the FBI and the Border Patrol. So
I got no problem with that.
Yeah, she had an M16 and was carrying.
All I can say is this: at least she's on the job, which we can say. In the past administration, those guys didn't show up for a lot of shit. Okay, maybe that's too much. Maybe you're right. Maybe it is too much. Right. But at least she's doing it. At least she's there. She's showing you that they're doing it, and she's in charge.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
It's rather fascinating to see what's going on in our country right now, and what people are complaining about. I was telling my brother, I was having a conversation with one of my customers the other day. Really nice lady, really nice customer, ultra liberal, right? Just so liberal, you just can smell it when you're walking down the hallway. and I don't say that in a bad way, like when they're talking about, you go into Walmart and you smell the Trump supporters.
Well, the difference between this lady and what you're talking about is she's not going to get mad at you for having a different opinion.
Right. And I kind of tested the waters there, and I asked her, she said, "Oh, that's okay," And we had some very great conversations about all the differences that people are talking about now, right? She's like, well, I don't know, I'm having a hard time sleeping, and she's basically saying that she's anxious about what's going on with President Trump. I go, yeah, now you know how I felt for the last 4 years.
Yeah. I'm telling you, when the Democrats had total control and they're talking about what they were talking about, I was worried. I really was.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anybody knows this, but I've been a Democrat my whole life until it was about 2 years ago now, actually.
Right. Yeah.
When I changed, and I just couldn't take it anymore. They left me. They're nowhere near the Democrats that I liked and could be behind. And yeah. But anyways.
So my wife was saying, oh, did you watch that XXXY video that Kathy sent us, the females in women's sports? But it doesn't really matter. I mean, it matters if you watch it, but I don't think we're going to be able to get to that today. But she said, what about state rules versus federal rules for allowing transgender men into women's sports? So Trump passed a executive order, is that what they're called?
Yeah.
Basically saying that men can no longer play in women's sports, or they're going to lose their funding.
Yeah.
California is one of those wonderful states that they basically said, screw you, we don't care, we're going to do what we want.
Yeah.
And And also, another thing they're doing in California still, even after that presidential what is it called? I don't want to say edict.
Executive order.
Executive order. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
After the executive order is like there's a girl who's going through puberty here in California somewhere. I don't remember where it was, but her parents are trying to help her out to go through it, and her school finds out, oh well, you're the reason you're going through this is because of puberty, and you might really be a male instead of
Yeah.
a female. So they allowed her to change her name and change her identity and
Without
change
telling the
her
parents.
pronouns without telling the parents. And oh, by the way, the school said that she couldn't tell the parents. So now the teachers had to create curriculum that when they sent it home had the right pronouns and right name on it. But when they're in school, had their school pronouns and names on it. And when the parents came into the school to talk to the teacher used the correct pronouns and names because they're totally hiding it from the parents.
I swear, if this happened when my kids were
Oh my
kids,
gosh.
I'd probably be in jail right now.
Yeah,
That's all I got to say about that. That's
you and me both. Yeah, yeah.
I don't. I'm glad I didn't have to make that decision, but it's so frustrating. And so you say all this, Jeff.
Yeah.
All this is absolutely true. Okay. And I'm not saying this is the case in this specific instance because it probably is not. But do you know who else doesn't want you to tell your parents about stuff you do when you're not at home? Pedophiles.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And sexual deviants.
Predators. Yep.
So, and I'm not saying what you said is that, but what they're doing is making it easier for these sexual deviants to do this to kids.
Yeah. Yep.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's pretty insane. So we talked about
but we do have a lot of females starting to stand up, and I'm glad, and we should all back them to the hilt.
Yes, absolutely. Because my brother and I were talking about this before, and it was like, so what can we do, right? Our kids are graduated, they're in college or graduated from college, or they're working their jobs or whatnot. What can we do? And the reality is, when Riley Gaines had the problem initially with the male swimmer going into the locker room and undressing totally nude with all his genitals and his penis hanging out in front of all these naked women because they all get naked to put their swimming suits on.
Mm-hmm.
She talked to her dad, and her dad was like, Rick, I'm gonna take care of this, and she's like, no, let me take care of it, right? Mm-hmm. And she did, and she did what she could to fight against the NCAA. She got her college degree, she graduated, and she started speaking out more and more about it because one of the things they threatened her with is if you speak out about it, we're going to take away your scholarship.
Hey, Dulcie Bennett's on. Hello,
hey,
sweetheart.
Dulcie. Hey, we're online. How do you like us now, production manager? There we go. We're online. But anyway, Riley Gaines was telling her dad, look, I will take care of this. Let me take care of this. And the reality is these women are the women that need to be standing up, and they're the women that need to be able to take care of it. And we need to be able to support them whatever way we can. I don't know what the way we can support them. We can support them with prayer. We can support them with money if we can donate some money to their cause or whatever. But we need to support them so that they can stand up and say, you know what, this is not right. Then recently we just had a girl who does fencing who basically bowed out, right?
She took a knee,
yeah,
put her sword down, took her mask off, and told the ref, I'm in the girls division. This is not a girl. I will not fence this boy.
They blacklisted her. They kicked her out.
Yep.
That needs, as Americans, we need to be saying, calling these people saying, look, this is wrong. You can't do that. It's not discriminatory for her to say that this guy shouldn't be fighting in the women's league.
Here's what I think these Democrats are doing, the Democrat states. So the federal government's going to stop sending them money. That's what they say. Let's see if it happens. I hope it does. But even if it does, they're thinking, you know what? We'll get back in charge and we'll make laws that you can do whatever you want, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
The problem is this with that theory is if you don't change this thought right now, it may be a one-party system. I'm telling you, this is a 90-10 issue.
Yeah.
90% of the people in our country don't think biological men should play against biological women in sports.
Right.
They should not be undressing in the same dressing room. Oh yeah, and the Riley Gaines one too. She complained about him undressing. They told her to go somewhere else and undress.
Get a private dressing room.
Yeah.
Oh, if you want a private dressing room, we'll set one up for you. Well, why won't you set a private dressing room up for the male who's
It
got a
would hurt
penis hanging
his
out in front of?
her feelings. No, I'm not going to say her. I'm going to say him because I'm sorry. That is a gender dysphoria. That is
Yeah.
it is a medical term that means you have something wrong with you that makes you think you're not who you are. Okay.
So that brings up the some more of the conversation I had with my customer, right? So she is a psychologist. She has
Right.
her not the master. She has her doctorate degree in psychology, right? So she's been doing it for 20 or 30 years, right? So I asked her. I said, okay, so you think it's okay for a man to say that he, or no? First of all, I said, so how many sexes are there? She's like, well, I said, no, there's two. There's male and female. Well, there are some that are born with both genitals. Like I said, yes, you're talking about a minuscule percentage of the population is born with both genitals. That being said, what do you think about a guy who comes out and says, I want to identify as a woman? And she said, well, I don't think there's a problem with that. I said, so if a guy dresses in drag, well, I don't think there's a problem with that. I said, so 15 years ago, as a psychologist, if a guy said that he was, going to dress in drag, you guys would have said it was mentally unstable or mentally insane, right? Well, yeah, but we're evolving. That was her statement. We're evolving. Oh, so it's not about what was right and wrong because of the time frame. We're evolving into a new time frame, so men can be women and women can be men, and you can just say whatever you want to say
Isn't
about it.
this what happened right before Sodom and Gomorrah?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
well, they're also having a lot of sex with people. So, and when what's interesting about the case of Sodom and Gomorrah, I don't know if you guys have ever read it in Genesis, where God, first of all, Abram hurt. An angel comes to Abraham and he gives him dinner, and he says he's going to go to Sodom and destroy Sodom, and Abraham is bartering with him and say, well, if there's 100 righteous, would you still destroy the city? Well, if there's 50 righteous, would you still destroy the city? Well, if there's 10 righteous, would you still destroy the city? And he said, look, we're going to go and destroy the city, right? So when the angel goes into the city, he's sitting at the city center where everyone meets, and what's the guy's name? I can't think of it. Lot, Moses' brother, who was living in Sodom. Lot comes to him and said, "Hey, how you doing?" And he introduced himself, and he said, "Look, you should follow me back to my house before it gets dark because you don't want to be in the streets when it's dark." They're like, "Okay." So the two angels go in with him into his house, and when darkness comes around, there's knocking on the door, right? And they're like, "Hey, send out the men that came into the city so we can have sex with them." And Lot's like, no, I have two virgin daughters. You can have those. They're like, no, we don't want the virgin daughters. We want the two men. And the two men who were angels blinded the men outside so they couldn't see him anymore. They didn't know where they're going, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they said, look, we're about to destroy the city. You and your wife and your family get the heck out of the city, right? And don't look back because you don't want to look back, right? So
Right.
Lot and his wife and his two daughters left the city of Sodom and Gomorrah, and his wonderful wife decided, hey, I want to see what's going on back there because fire started pouring down out of heaven into Sodom and Gomorrah, right? And just so you know, there's actually still sulfuric balls that are in that area that you can find on the ground still today. If you break them up, it'll start burning in fire, right? Which is fascinating, right?
Right.
So Lot's wife decided to turn back and look, and she turned a pillar of salt. And then so Lot and his two daughters left the city, and they were the only ones saved. So the discrepancy of Sodom and Gomorrah was all of the men having sex with other men,
Right.
and the debauchery of the sexual immorality that's going on there. So God's like, look, enough is enough. So yep, that's it.
Yeah. So, anyways, where were we on?
So
do you want to talk about tariffs now?
Yeah, yeah, we haven't talked about tariffs at all. So let's talk about tariffs. I'll let you start because you're the one that wanted to bring it up. So
Well, I have positive and negative thoughts on this, right? So,
very good.
positive thoughts is yes, they should be done. We're doing the right thing, and eventually this will make our country stronger in the long run.
Yeah.
I think there's gonna be some suffering, but that's because of our government since probably 1980, maybe even before that, maybe 75. Whenever Carter was president, and I'm not blaming Carter, don't get me wrong.
Right.
I'm blaming everybody in our government, but I just know Carter was where it started. Every president, every congressman, every senator, nobody has done one single thing
Right.
to keep our jobs from leaving our country and going overseas.
Republican
Not
and
one
Democrat.
person did.
Republican and Democrat.
So this is an attempt to fix that, but you're fixing 50 years of stuff.
Trying
Okay.
to, yeah.
So there's going to be some suffering.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think eventually it's going to take a little bit of time. It's not going to happen today, tomorrow, next week. Maybe in 6 months to a year, we'll start seeing things coming back, and maybe that'll turn things around and make things in already. Who was it? Was it that said they're going to put $500 billion into our country?
Chip manufacturer from Taiwan, I think.
No, there was an American company.
Apple.
Apple said they're going to build a manufacturing plant, put $500 billion in our country. So this stuff's already said it's going to happen. Like I said, I'm air quoting this because there hasn't been a shovel turned yet, of dirt turned yet that I know of. Okay, so let's see. And so then my problem with this is Trump is just being crazy with this shit. He's going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, like he didn't have a freaking plan.
Right.
Okay.
And
so
I agree. I don't like it. I can't understand it. And I'm getting the same
and so
vibes as my brother. And I like Trump. I'm a pro-Trumper, so just so you know. So
I will never call you anything but a pro-Trumper.
Well,
so
I know you won't. So,
I've
always been
and that's
since he first ran in 2016. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So
and then this is where I go. This is where I go to Fox News kissing Trump's ass. They're just like, oh, he's got a plan. Oh, he's got a plan. Oh, he's got a plan. Well, what is his plan? To go up and down, up and down, up. Oh, the stock market crashed. I better make a statement so it doesn't blah, blah, blah. No. Have a plan. Stick to the plan.
Right.
Yes, people are going to suffer because it's been 50 years.
Yep.
Okay? But you got to stick with the plan. You can't keep jumping back and forth.
Exactly.
And maybe the plan isn't to put 145% tariffs on China. Maybe the plan was to put maybe the plan was to put 50% and just say, fuck you. That's where it's going to be, and we're going to keep it there. Because China, we cannot lose with this. Because we take so much more stuff from them than they take from us. It's not even remotely close. Right. So our tariffs are going to cost them more than their tariffs are going to cost us. Right. So stop with this. I'm going to tit for tat. Stick with a number. Let's get through this. Because if you go back and forth, it's going to take longer to get through it. It really is.
Well, the funny thing is, when he first started the tariffs, I think it was like on a Monday or something like that, and on Tuesday, there was a leak that there was a potential 90-day stay on tariffs, and the stock market went through the roof, right?
Yeah.
And then in like an hour or something, right? It does have to be open to negotiation, absolutely.
Hang on, Jeff, hold your point. But my point to my wife is he should have had this plan before, and he should have stuck with the plan, not like, oh my God, I did too much, I got to go back. No, well, if you did too much, and you should have had a better plan. Okay, go ahead, brother.
Right. So then when it was found out that story wasn't true, the stock market started dropping again, right? But it's like the hint of the possibility of no tariffs was like set the stock market investors in their frenzy, right? So it's like, okay, so that's kind of odd. But then one of the other things that, there's a lot of people saying there are Republicans that are saying this. So I'm kind of wondering, apparently before he came out and said that they're going to put a 90-day hold on the tariffs, when he actually said it, apparently the bond market was struggling, and Japan, China, and the EU were selling off American bonds like crazy, right?
Yeah.
Which basically would have meant the value of the dollar was worthless, because nobody's holding a U.S. bond or treasury to say that they trust an American and be able to pay back their debt, right? And I don't know if that's true or not. That's the story that people are saying, and it's Republicans that are saying it. So I'm like, okay, so what the hell happened? And I'm back to the same thing that my brother said. So what are we doing? Are we flip-flopping when it's not convenient, or you're starting to feel a little pain, so they got to shut it back and turn it around, or what the hell? I mean, do something.
Because here's the thing. It's not short-term convenience that we're looking at. It's long-term.
Right.
Short-term, it's going to suck.
Right.
Okay? There's no doubt about it. But stick with the plan.
Right.
Don't and let's see, Dulcie also said this. It's It's not written in stone being democratically controlled and improving our country's opinion for the rest of the world. Um, I don't. I understand what people think we should. We worry about what people think about us. I right this minute we
Hey,
can't
there's my
worry about
wife.
it because they've been taking advantage of us for so long that if we worry about what they're thinking about us, we'll never get back to where we need to be.
Right.
Okay.
So Kathy's saying she got on here. I don't know how she did that. I'm glad that she didn't because now she can be on the show. Isn't that back and forth part of Trump's art of the deal negotiation pattern?
Well,
I
that's what
don't
they're
know.
saying.
That's what they're saying, and it may be right, but the reality is still for people that are unaware, they're like, "What the hell's going on?" Right?
And for me, who has heard that, I don't believe that's the truth. It feels to me like he's panicking, and this is
Right.
what scares me: is he panics and he doesn't follow through. Because
Right.
if he panics and doesn't follow through, we're going to go right back to where we were before.
Right.
Okay, and I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong.
The Democrat that was on that Kurt show this morning, she said something I found was fascinating. I can't remember what it was. It had something to do with the bond market and the people talking about the tariffs.
Well, the first thing that started to go down was the bond market.
Right.
That's what she said. And I remember that part of it. I don't remember after that what she said.
Yeah, I mean, because there, I like hearing a different opinion, right? And I'm okay with that. But it's like at some point in time, I'm listening to stuff. I'm like, all right, this is just the same Barbara Streisand stuff from the other side. They're just so anti-Trump that they can't make, they can't think of any other way to do it. And she said something like that. I just can't remember what it was. And I'm like, look, um, whether or not it's the art of the deal, whether you've read the art of the deal or not, you have to hope and pray that he's doing something right. But it is very frustrating, like my brother said, and I totally agree with him. I'm not sticking up for Trump at this point at all. It's very frustrating when you see it looks like he's flip flopping, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like if you know that it's going to be hard and Americans are going to have to suffer for a little bit because he has said that it's going to be hard, right? And it might be a little tough at first, right? Then let's stick with it, right? And don't stick with, oh well, maybe we can make it work and make China come to toe or whatever. It's like, look, China is not going to come to toe. I mean, unless they suffer,
unless we stick to our guns.
Yeah, then they'll be like, okay, that's
because
be a
we
problem.
can hurt them in their economy way more than they can hurt us in our economy.
Right. Yeah. So hopefully they'll stick through it. I don't know. Tomorrow's Monday, so hopefully we'll see something happen on Monday. I think you should.
And let me just say this: I don't wish the Chinese people to have a bad economy. Okay, I just want fair in world trade. That's what I want. And right now, it's not even close to fair. Okay, you can't do Facebook and you can't do Instagram in China. They don't allow it. They charge us way more to bring our stuff into their country than we charge to bring until now to bring their stuff into our country. They will not allow us to send vehicles into their country to sell.
Yeah.
Okay. It's crazy. All I want is fair. Okay. I don't want to see people suffer. But I think it's going to happen because we're going to have to suffer because the rulers in China are not going to want it fair because they've had their ass kissed for so long to get cheap goods. Okay. That they're not happy with us trying to change.
Right.
I think we should be more friendly. There we go. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
More friendly to our allies, though. Saying on air these countries are kissing his ass doesn't seem very. No, it doesn't. And I'm not. It's when I heard that, I was like, what the? Just sometimes that guy just needs to shut up and keep his thoughts to himself, but he can't. And that's part of who he is. It's good in ways and it's bad in ways. Okay, and I have a problem with. I go back and forth on what you said about treating should be friendly to our allies, more friendly to our allies. I go back and forth on this because one, yes, I agree with you. Our allies and us should be good together. But two, if our trade is unfair and they're unwilling to change it, what are we gonna do?
Right.
Do we just be nice to them and keep it the way it is?
Right. Well, a classic example of our allies is Canada and Mexico. They're right next door to us, and how they've been treating us for the last 20 years. They've been treating us like shit.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, we're gonna get drugs from China, and oh, by the way, I found out today that China sends the drugs to Mexico at cost. They're not even making money off of it. They're
Right.
sending them to them at cost. So it's like, what is your purpose of sending it to Mexico at cost, except for to destroy America?
Right. Exactly.
Right. So
And that's
so
been done before.
right.
There's been many examples where countries have sent tons of drugs into another country to weaken them so that they can overtake them. It's you can
Well,
read about it. It's happened a lot of times.
and South Korea, just to be clear, South Korea subsidized their car manufacturing for years so that they could get them into the American market. Right? You have a Kia. I'm not complaining about that. I'm not trying to call you out on that. But the reality is, South Korea fully subsidized the auto manufacturers to get their cars up and running to sell them. Right?
Two things about my Kia I want to say.
Go ahead.
One is they told me it was made in Georgia.
Yeah.
Okay. Two
So was my Toyota truck. My Toyota truck was made in Texas.
When I
It was
wanted a
assembled
car
in Texas. My bad.
when I wanted a car, the first place I went was to Chevy, and they would not
This is
deal with
bad.
me even a little bit.
This is bad. Yeah, because
So-
you were trying to get a lease, right?
I was
Initially,
trying to
you were
get a lease, and I
yeah.
wanted a lease. I wanted a cheap lease. I needed a car to get mom around in,
Yep.
and I just wanted a cheap lease. They wanted to lease me a car for more than what it would cost me to buy a car from them.
Right.
It
Because
was
they want you
crazy.
to buy it. They want you
So
to buy
that's why I have a Kia, just so
Right.
everyone knows.
it. And like I said, Hyundai did the same thing, right? Hyundai, South Korean company, subsidized by the South Korean government. They brought them to America. When I first started working on cars at Miller Dodge Hyundai in Vessel Parkway in Vessel, New York, they were like 3 years in the market or 4 years in the market, and Hyundai had a car called the Hyundai Scoop as a 4-cylinder with a turbo. It won the Pikes Peak Challenge 2 years in a row, right? So, but they were fully subsidized by the South Korean government, and they were offering 100,000-mile bumper to bumper 10-year warranty on.
They
their
were the first
vehicles.
ones to come out with that.
Yeah, 10-year warranty, 100,000 miles bumper to bumper, right? It was insane. And we made a lot of money in the Miller Dodge Hyundai because we were the only team that was working on the Hyundais, and we did all of that warranty replacement, warranty services. We
Right.
made hand over fist. They had 4 teams. The team that I was on was the only team that there was 3 teams. 3 teams. The team that I was on was the only team that worked on Hyundais, and we made the most money of the 3 teams that were in the shop because basically, subsidized by Hyundai. So
This I don't know.
yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's Chrysler's the same way. Chrysler's made oh shoot, who is it?
Lee Iacocca doesn't own them anymore. His family.
No, nope.
Oh, so while you're looking that up, I'll try to keep the conversation going here. And yeah, so you're right about how they got their cars in here. I remember when I was in like 5th grade, the teacher told us that that they were bringing vehicles in from other places, and we were charging them basically nothing to let them come into our country. And if we wanted to send our vehicles over there, they were charging. They either wouldn't let us, or they were charging us an exorbitant amount. This is back when I was in 5th grade.
Right.
Okay, so this is probably in 1970. Around in there, 72
Right.
maybe.
Yeah.
And it was going on back then. That's why I say our government is responsible for this shit. Our
Right.
government has been on the take, on the buyout since forever. And at least this is different.
Right.
Okay. Our country is on the way to going bankrupt, $37 trillion in debt now. And at least this is different.
Right.
Okay.
And
I'm hoping
it's
that between the tariffs, and I'm hoping you drill baby drill, if they start drilling, we can use some of that money to pay off the debt. Eventually we
Right.
get some of these loans paid off, like to China and stuff like that. That Obama borrowed money from China because we were in fiscal dire straits back when we were only $12 trillion in debt. Don't get me started. Oh, you already did. Never mind.
yeah, it's insane. The amount of money that we are in debt is insane. Now, if we can work our way out of debt. Now, I was telling my brother this about a week or two ago. I've seen a couple different stories on Instagram where they're talking about how there's $150 trillion of assets in the United States. And basically, what they're talking about, when I did some more investigation on it, what they're talking about is um, minerals,
Yeah.
rare minerals, right? So if and Trump is a prime candidate to be able to release this into the world and to start making money off it because the Supreme Court, I think it was just before he came into office, overturned some EPA rule and guideline that had been going on for decades. That the EPA had the last say on anything that was done in America for drilling or mining or anything like that,
Right.
right? So Trump is the first president that has this ability now. So if he can basically, because and he already offered $1 billion. If it, no, he said if anyone invests $1 billion to recover these rare earth minerals, I will make sure they have no blocking or no issues with getting
Regulation.
permits, no regulations to block them, prevent them from doing their job. Right.
Right.
So it, it has a potential to make a lot of money, and it also has a potential to make a lot of money for American citizens because one of the things they showed is like there's a company in Africa who was one of the founders of some mining or something like that, and their stock was like like $1 a share or something like that. And when they got this mining contract and they started pulling rare earth minerals out of the earth, their stock went up to like $16 a share, which is a huge investment. Like if you invested $1,000, on a dollar a share, and it goes up to $16 a share or something, you're going to make some money, right? But there's some of these that went like over 900% in increase in their shares in the stock.
Right.
So what they were saying basically is, as American citizens, we should be paying attention to what's going on, so that maybe we can get invested in some of these companies, so that when they start delivering the rare earth minerals and they start selling them and using them, so we're no longer going to China to get rare earth minerals to make batteries for lithium batteries for cars in the United States. I mean, or we're no longer going to China to make
Anywhere but China,
medicines,
by
or
the way.
anywhere but China, because we can do it in America because they don't have these stringent rules and requirements on them. Then that has a potential for us to be able to not only as America be able to make better place in America, but as American citizens, if we can figure out how to get involved with it, we can make what they call the generational wealth for ourselves.
Right.
So that our kids and grandkids and great grandkids would have no issue with wealth in the rest of their lives.
Or all these, everybody who's putting money into the stocks, this should be part of that, and
Right.
and everybody will get wealthy from it, or
Right.
at least be well off because of it, where you don't have
Right.
to worry about it. And everybody worries about the stocks going down, and I got money in the stocks. I take money out of my stock every month to help me live in my retirement. Okay, I think it's worth it. Yeah, I'm losing some money right now. But it's
Right.
worth it in the long run for your
Right.
kids and your grandkids and your great grandkids and their great grandkids.
Right.
This is how we need to go. Otherwise, we're going to be lost. We're not going to be the
Right.
best country in the world to live
Yeah.
in. You know,
Yep. Yeah. I mean,
and China, their rulers, I believe, have a thought process on how they can rule the whole world. That's what I truly
Right.
believe. And maybe I'm wrong, but should
well,
we take that
they
chance?
have like 100-year plan, right?
Right.
We're getting all mad because we have a 4-day plan.
Right,
These
exactly.
guys have a 100-year plan. They're like, look, we're going to have total world domination in 100 years, so we're just going to keep working towards that, right?
Right.
And I'm not saying that we need to work towards world domination, but we should work towards being world supremacy and being the one that every nation wants to come to, besides for protection of against China and Russia.
But I will say this is putting a dent in their plan.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Because it's different. Like Rick said, it's a different, right?
Yeah.
And I agree with him 100%. That's what we need. We've been having Republicans and Democrats have been doing the same shit day after day after day, thinking it's going to come out with a different result. And we're $36 trillion in debt. And it started, Bill Clinton was the last president that had a balanced budget. And frankly, that was because the Republicans are like, look, we're going to have a balanced budget. They became majority control of the House and the Senate. and they basically made him have a balanced budget, right? So, but regardless of
I
who
don't
you say
agree with
I'm
that
not,
statement, by the way, but I don't think they didn't have anything to do with it, but I don't think it was them alone that did.
well, the Republicans were in charge. There was the
Well,
first
they've
time
been
in
in charge since
decades
then
that
too, and it didn't happen.
no,
So
well,
it takes
yeah,
two
but
sides to get it right.
you're absolutely right. But it's the first time in decades that the Republicans were in charge. The Newt Gingrich had the deal with America, and they stuck to the deal and they made it work. And one of the deals was balancing the budget, right? And since then, since Clinton was finished his 8-year terms, we haven't had a balanced budget since then. I
No,
mean, how
have
insane is
not.
that? And what do
Not a
we hear
single one
every
since then.
every
So
October? Well, we better do this continuing resolution, or we're going to have to shut the government down. What the fuck have you been doing since January of this year? Suddenly, you're waiting till October that you're going to say, "Oh, we have to suddenly come up with a continuing resolution, otherwise we're going to shut down the government." Dude, pull your head out of your ass and do your freaking job. You have a job required by the Constitution to balance a fucking budget, right? I'm sorry I'm getting swearing in this, but this really frustrates me because Republicans and Democrats both have done it. And I'm a Republican, and they don't. Oh well, we're so busy, right? You remember the first time that Trump became president? Mitch McConnell, who was the head of the Senate, said, "Well, he's going to have to learn that the Senate doesn't work that way." And Donald Trump was like, "Look, you're going to have to pull your head out of your ass and get this thing moving because we are going to change the way we're working, right?"
yeah.
But they're so set in their ways, and they're so set in the thing. It's like, well, we got till October before we have to start talking about the budget, and then we got to suddenly panic the American people. Oh, if we don't pass the resolution, we're going to shut the government down.
Well, here's I mean, I understand what you're saying. I almost agree with it, except it's another one of those things that can't happen today. It's got to take a little bit of time. Okay. Now, am I confident that they'll follow through with what? No, I'm not. Okay.
Right.
But I don't think
either.
they could have done it in this one spot right now. So they set it up so they can start doing it. Well, let's see if they do.
Doing it. Let's start doing it.
So someone wrote in this thing today about we're talking about Clinton have the balanced budget, and they said I forget what they said. It was really bad. So when Bush was president, the deficit was blah blah blah. When Obama was president, the deficit was a lot less. When Trump was president, the deficit was blah blah blah. And when Biden was president, the deficit went down again. And I'm going to call bullshit on that right now.
Well,
because you're talking about
deficit
is year by year. Let's talk about debt, because here's the facts on debt, and I may not be exactly right, but I'm going to be really close on this. Okay, Clinton was 0. After Bush, it was $11 trillion. After Obama, it was $18 trillion. After Trump, it was $26 trillion. And after Biden, it was $36 trillion. So don't give me any crap about the Democrats are better than the Republicans not going down the debt. That's bullshit.
Right.
Okay, I'm done.
Yeah, but you're 100% right. That's the thing. It's like, but no, everyone, it goes back to that poll that I've always talked about. Everyone wants to say that their party is the right party, right? So they did the poll. They said, what do you think of the congressmen or senators? And it was like 80% of the poll said they all suck, right?
Right.
And on the same poll, they said, what do you think of your congressman or senator? And 80% of the same poll said, my congressman or senator is perfect. Right. What does that tell you? The insanity of the American population is like, all the other guys suck, but my guy is the only guy that is doing it right. And every person throughout the nation thinks the same thing. Unfortunately or fortunately, and whatever you want to look at it, I do not know who my congressional representative is. I do know who one of my senators are. Both my senators are. Shifty Shift, and who's the other one? It's not Fox anymore.
I don't even know who it is. They threw in California. But
either. Anyway, yeah. So but it's not like I know them, or I would be talking to them, or I'd be working with them to try to make stuff work, or calling them up and saying, "Hey, what the hell are you doing? How come you're not doing your job?"
So here's the thing too on that, and I believe this to be true right now. Mm-hmm. Most people right now are either Trump is great or Trump sucks.
Right.
Okay. And most people last year were either Biden is great or Biden sucks. Okay, that goes right down what you're saying. Nobody, very few people look at the guy they like with open eyes.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
it doesn't happen very often. And people, like, if I stick up for Trump, people will say, you're a Trumper. The girl today called me a
Right.
Trump devotion.
So
I
not
just
even
looked up. It was
close.
devotion.
So
Trump
not even
devotion
close.
syndrome is
Not
what
even
she said. I
close.
just found it.
Yeah.
And that's
Trump
not even
devotion.
close to the truth. Okay, because like I said, I am not a Trump fan. I don't
Right.
think he's the devil. I think he's doing some good things. I also think he's doing some shitty things. Okay.
Right.
And I can find some things that Biden did good. There are very few people
can
who
you
I
really?
asked.
Can you
What's
really?
that?
Can you
I
really
can.
find-
See, you can't find one. I can, Jeff. Okay.
I can't think of one, to be honest with you. So
Okay. So
tell me one good thing he did, and I'll
he
if
got
you're
the
right, I'll go-
infrastructure bill passed. And every president since Reagan has said they need new infrastructure. Now, I may not like the total bill because they put a lot of stupid pork on it.
Right.
But the fact that they got it passed is a good thing for our country because our infrastructure needs to be replaced. There's
Right.
no doubt about that. But anyway, my point is this: you couldn't come up with one thing that Biden did that was good. Okay.
Well, along the statement you just made, right? And I'm not trying to diss on. I agree with you. If he's the one that got the infrastructure bill passed, great. The problem and dilemma I have is what do they do with it, right? Because it's just like they passed a high speed rail bill in the state of California.
Well,
this thing has spent over $100 billion. They don't have a fucking foot of rail laid yet.
right. And they
they're
have been spending some money. I can't name exactly, but I have read that they are spending. They should be spending more, I think, than they
Right.
are.
And I agree. I think our infrastructure needs to be taken care of.
I mean, one of the things in there was the electric charging stations that they were going to make up, and they did.
Yeah,
they were going to have
spent
like
$8 billion, and they made one. It was like, wow,
I think they made more than one now, but it's not
I
many.
think it's
But I'll
two,
say this:
yeah.
Pilot and Flying J has made more than they have. Almost
Right.
every Pilot or Flying J has a charging station in it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And they didn't get government assistance, I don't
No.
think, right?
No.
And oh, by the way, the infrastructure bill, right? I'm not trying to diss on it again, but you remember, what is it, 3 years ago? This cargo ship crashed into a bridge, and
Yeah.
that bridge is still not built. It's still fucking in the water.
Well,
what the heck is going on with that?
I don't know, and I don't think that has anything to do with the infrastructure bill. I think that has more to do with incompetency. They're probably, I don't know. I don't know. How long? They said it was going to take many years to rebuild that bridge. I don't remember.
Yeah,
but I do remember the bridge in New York, the Tappan Zee Bridge, which is they renamed it something else, which I won't call it, but it's a Tappan Zee Bridge. That took them years to build that bridge while the other one was still in use.
Right. So,
okay.
So
and it's a beautiful bridge.
Along those lines, when the hurricane hit in Florida, what's the governor's name down there again? DeSantis had that thing built in 2 months. Had it rebuilt in 2 months.
Not the same. Not the same.
No, it is pretty much the
No,
same.
the bridge isn't as long and not in this deep of water.
Right. But the reality is this. If you put men on it, you can build it, right? But if you don't put men on it, what's going to get built?
Right.
Absolutely
and we should look into
nothing.
that to find. We should try to find out what is actually going on with that bridge, because that would be a good topic of discussion in our next podcast. Because we're an hour and 23 minutes into this podcast.
Excellent. I love it.
I don't know if we should keep going or cut it off.
My apologies for dropping some F-bombs. I got a little.
Oh no, I drag you right in that. I'll take the blame for that. I drag you right into that, bro.
I should know better than that. You know, they say once you get into swearing, you don't have anything else to say. You know, so. But that is it's very frustrating to me to see where our country has been. I hope it's going to a better place. I am one of those guys that I trust in Donald Trump a lot more than my brother does, obviously. But I'm also, obviously, like you've heard today, I question some of the stuff he's doing. I'm like, what the heck is going on? Either stick with a plan or don't, right? Tell us you're going to do something or don't. You're going to go to Fort Knox or not. You told us you're going to go to Fort Knox and you're going to tell us if there's a real gold in there or not, but you never did, right? Or you never told us what you did, right? So you told us you're going to put tariffs on these people and you're going to do it, and then you put a 90-day pause on it. Like, what, why? And, you know, everyone says it's the art of the deal, right? I haven't read the art of the deal. But the lady that I was telling you, I was talking about that I was having the conversation with, she said, have you ever read the art of the deal? I said, no. I said, I haven't read it yet. there's like multiple people in there he quotes that don't even exist. I'm like, well, that's the first I've heard of that. So, and I'm not saying it's not there. I've
Yeah.
never heard that before. But I mean, these are things that if it's true, then they should be, spoken at the highest
Well,
of the heavens.
well, here's the things I want
So,
to say about our government. Our government, in my opinion, since Carter, and that's everybody, Democrats and Republicans, have been for sale. And this is why we're where we're at now, because they have been taking money from foreign governments, and this is everybody in our government.
what
And maybe
about
not
Reagan?
everybody,
What about
but
Reagan?
both sides have done it.
Ronald Reagan?
And after, yeah, maybe not Ronald Reagan himself, but in Ronald Reagan's administration, yes.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
The
Yeah.
jobs still went overseas during Ronald Reagan's
Yes, they did.
administration. And he didn't
Yeah.
do anything to stop it.
He was the one that closed down all the psychiatric wards too, right? And I really don't know why that was.
Yeah,
Doesn't make any sense to me.
I think there's talk about reopening them, and I think they should, because that's
Yeah.
part of the homeless. That's a big part of the homeless problem and our crime problem. It truly is.
Yeah.
That these people are just crazy. But anyways, my point is this: it's been for sale for all this time. The only way to stop that from keep going is term limits.
Right.
And
Yes.
it may not stop it, but at least it's something. If
Right.
you have a term limits of 2 terms, wait, what is Senate term? 2 years?
6 years. 6 years for the Senate, 2 years for Congress.
So
Every 2 years, all of Congress is voted in, has to run for re-election, and every 2 years, a third of the Senate gets re-elected.
all of Congress goes every 2 years?
Yep.
Well,
And
they
the
should change
president
it.
is every-
They should change it
president's
to
every
every
4
3 years, and you can only do 2 terms.
That would require a constitutional amendment. I'm not
Exactly.
saying that they can't do it.
No,
or
no,
shouldn't
it,
be
it
done,
will require a
but-
constitutional amendment, but
Yeah.
that's what they need to do. They need to do
Right.
something like that to keep these people from being lifers, because once they start getting the money, they're for sale. Other countries know they're for sale,
yeah,
and they just
yeah.
keep giving them more money to get more shit, to get more jobs over in China or Korea or Japan or Taiwan,
Yeah,
wherever the heck.
wherever, yeah.
It's crazy.
Yep.
India.
Yeah,
you know?
it's. I don't know. I don't know how we're ever going to do that, because again, that's going to require constitutional amendment in order to have term limits. There have been both Republicans and Democrats that have recommended and suggested or tried to pass bills, but they all get turned down because
Yeah,
nobody
because
wants
it's
to
going to
have
take a 2/3
Yeah.
vote.
Yeah, yep.
And-
And that one, and it should. Don't misunderstand me.
Yes.
It should. But the only way I think it's going to happen is if the American people say, "Look, enough is enough," and they start calling their congressmen, calling their senators, and saying, "Look, you better vote for term limits, or I'm going to vote your ass out of office. I'll do everything I can to make sure you never get reelected unless you vote for term limits, and then you'll get reelected one more time as a senator, and maybe 2 more times as a congressman."
I
'cause
also
it shouldn't be
What was I
that.
going to say? I lost my train of thought. You just talked right over my train of thought, brother.
Sorry,
Oh,
term
whatever.
limits.
Yes.
Term limits.
It's okay.
on a
Term
roll. My
limits,
bad.
blah blah blah. I don't know. Whatever. Oh,
Calling your congressman your senator to let them know you're not going to
Yeah,
get
I
reelected
don't-
if you.
I don't.
Anyway,
My
yeah,
mind
so-
is my mind is a wreck.
Whew,
So-
hour and a half. So maybe it's time to take these wrecked minds into the parking station and let it go. So we want to say thank you all for coming and listening. Want to thank God for our military personnel. We didn't really talk about them today, but they're very much in our thoughts and our minds. Thank
Always.
thank God for firefighters, our police officers, our first responders, and thank God for America. We are greatly appreciative of the country that we live in, to have the freedom that we have to be able to have this conversation and to be able to talk about it, even though we may not agree. And we appreciate you. Thank you for coming and listening. So God bless you and God bless America.
Everything my brother said times 2. Love y'all. Thank you for joining us, and I'm hoping someday we'll get some alternative opinions in here, and everybody doesn't agree on everything all the time. Me and my brother had a couple discussions tonight. That was good. We have a couple different opinions on things, and we like different opinions. Different opinions matter, because if everybody thinks the same, then you're going to go in a bad direction. Doesn't matter whether you agree with it or not. It's going to be bad.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
But anyways, I love you guys. God bless you all, and thanks for coming in.
Yes. God bless you. No music to put us out. Just gonna
I
end the
couldn't
stream.
find the music. No.
All right. God bless you. I'm gonna hang up as soon as it says it's thinking about it. Come on, end the stream. We're gonna end it now.